No, it's the game that's 30 miles down the road, but certainly not a derby. Bournemouth next in the Premier League. Monday Night Football as well, under the lights. Steve, what have you made to their start of the season so far? I mean, they've already played Liverpool, Chelsea, and Newcastle, so they've had a few tough games, but they had that win at Everton as well.
They've been pretty hit and miss, haven't they? I mean, tough fixtures on paper, although I think on grass, actually, some of their games have been a little bit easier than you would have expected. That Newcastle one, they probably should have won that game. Didn't. I mean, that's a tale well told this season for a lot of teams actually against Newcastle, because Spurs should have beaten them, Wolves should have beaten them, we should have beaten them. So and Fulham are the only team that actually have got the job done yesterday. So well done to them. But yeah, Bournemouth, look, I mean, obviously losing your focal point and top goal scorer on the eve of the season is not ideal. And they've spent massive money for a club of their size on the replacement in the hope that he just slots in. But I mean, he's slotted in and missed a penalty so far. So I mean, I don't really know whether this guy's going to be any good, whether he's even up and running, and I don't think you can really judge him on a 90-minute performance. Well, he probably even didn't even play 90 minutes at Anfield yesterday when they were 3-0 down at half time. The game was already done. So they've not had a great start in terms of results, but I suspect performances have probably been okay from what I gather. I certainly don't think there's been an awful lot of dissent in the ranks down there. Did make me laugh. A good mate of mine who's a Bournemouth fan went to the Everton game, and he left with 10 minutes to go. So he missed all three of their goals. The comeback of all comebacks.
And that would have been one of the all-time great away days, wouldn't it? Yeah, that would have been one of the all-time greats.
Well, it is the greatest Premier League comeback of all time, isn't it? In terms of numbers and the disadvantage they were at. Yeah.
So. Yeah, I mean the only later turnaround I think was that Spurs one against Leicester a couple of years ago, but they were only 1-0 down, and scored twice in like 94 and 96 or something stupid. But yeah, I mean it's just peak Everton, wasn't it? But Bournemouth have always got a threat. They're very fast in kind of all areas. That's their kind of big thing, is that all of their players have got pace, probably apart from Lewis Cook. But then in his position, he doesn't need to have any pace. One really interesting signing for them is the keeper, Kepa, from Chelsea. I'm fascinated by that because I kind of thought that Neto was absolutely fine. And he was their captain for a lot of last season. So not quite sure what the sort of dynamics of that move are all about.
Did he go to Arsenal in the end?
Yeah,
yes, he did. Yeah, so he was. Yeah. He's gone into Arsenal as Raya's backup.
Did we have to wait for that deal to be done before the Ramsdale one went through?
Yeah, theoretically, yeah. I mean, the Ramsdale one was announced a good 6 or 7 hours before in the end, but. I think it was a case of, well, this deal's going to get done. It's just a case of getting all the paperwork sorted. So let's just get it.
Well, Steve, I had Neto in my fantasy team last season, and towards the end of the season, he dropped a couple of clangers and then got dropped for Mark Travers. So I just wonder if that sort of burnt some bridges there, and he saw the opportunity to go to Arsenal and took it.
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, he's not. Well, I guess it's probably better to be not playing at Arsenal than not playing at Bournemouth.
Just about.
So I mean, he'll get cup games, so it's not a complete sort of write off of the season, is it? But can't be an awful lot of fun when you know you're never going to play a competitive game unless the guy in front of you either does something stupid and gets himself sent off or gets injured.
Mm-hmm. Do we stick with the same team, Alfie? I know. Do you think Will Smallbone will be back? He's going to find it difficult to get back into the side the way they're going at the moment. But would you go with the same 11?
Yeah, maybe Steve and Glen would be slightly better to us just because they've been in the atmosphere and felt the context of how the game went. I've only watched it clips back on a laptop. But I mean, Will Smallbone, he might well be back fit, but he's certainly back in the starting 11. Obviously, he's got some work to do to get back into the side. I could see this same 11 again, but again, that Glenn mentioned the left-hand side winger's not nailed down, so it wouldn't surprise me to see a change there. And I know Paul was obviously trying not to be negative, to his credit, but doesn't believe in Cameron Archer. The chances that he's missed are now starting to rack up, but I still see something of a player in there, the way he moves with.
I thought he played well. I thought he played well yesterday.
Areas, so I think he's still
other than the finish.
Yeah, you still play. I mean, it's unlucky. He did so well, in my opinion, for taking round the keeper and should have scored. But the second chance that Glenn mentioned, where it just sort of, I think it comes to him in the box and he has a chance to, and he just hits it straight at the keeper. That's the bad one. So I would keep that. The back four doesn't need to change unless he decides to bring Carly, but I'd probably keep the same back four. And obviously midfield three is the same. So, yeah, you could see maybe one change on the left. The battle for me is going to be that position, the left back, is going to be key because Antoine Semenyo has sort of stepped up into their sort of Dominic Solanke talisman type player. I think Evan Nilsson actually looks like a decent player, even though he hasn't got any goals. But Semenyo is the one who's been a real threat, sort of getting in behind teams. So whoever does play left back will have to be one of the top performers to keep him quiet.
Do you think that might be the only change, Glenn?
I actually don't think they will change anything. I think Ryan Fraser will play, probably because, especially because it is Bournemouth.
He's
going to get absolutely
mullered
off of the 9,000 home fans or whatever massive number they have down there. Yeah, he will. He will. So no, I mean, I can't see there being any changes. But if there is, I mean, you don't know how Fraser's going to react to playing that 60 minutes. As long as he's fit, I'm sure he'll start. If he doesn't, then probably Brereton Diaz will start. But I know Cornet's left-footed, isn't he? But he tends to play off the right.
Plays off the
right. So maybe he'll come into things. I'm sure the only reason he didn't come on as a sub, when Dibbling went off yesterday, was simply because of the situation of the game. You want a player who's got probably a little bit more defensive responsibility. Thought he could have brought Kyle on actually and stuck him in front of Sugawara, but no, that wasn't the reason why we eventually let a goal in. By the way, but no, I agree with what the lads were saying earlier on about Bournemouth. I watched virtually all 90 minutes of their home game against Chelsea when they were very unfortunate to lose 1-0. I thought they were the better side, if anything, in that game. But they did struggle up front. But they do. The pace is quite frightening that they with the likes of Semenyo, Cliver, Tavernier, even Sinistera when he comes on. They've got some very good direct players in the attacking positions, and that's something we're going to have to deal with. Whether we obviously defend 1-on-1 against these guys or cut it off at source. Lewis Cook makes the team tick, so that's the job for probably Downs and Lallana in there is to stop him. I like the left back as well, Kirkes. He looks a decent player, and we know what Kepa's like from his Chelsea days. He can either be brilliant, where he looks like the best goalkeeper in the world, or he can be an absolute clown. So, and that's the reason why he's not getting a game at Chelsea, because his inconsistency is there. And I noticed he was on the bench on Saturday, but let's not be silly. If we see, let's give David Brooks a decent reception if he comes on, because
he's fit again now.
He's done nothing wrong. Yeah, he's unused sub at the weekend, and I think that's kind of been his remit for the last few games for Bournemouth. So so it'd be nice to see him again. Hopefully he doesn't do anything.
Forgotten about him, to be honest. Forgotten about him.
I should say mine. Sorry, Glenn, go on.
No, carry on, mate.
I was just going to say, change topic slightly, but I was going to say about Antoine Semenyo is obviously an interesting player for me, because obviously he's a Bristol City Academy lad. I've watched a lot of him as a young winger. I've actually watched his younger brother play for Mangotsfield United FC in a FA Youth Cup game against Eastleigh. I think he now plays for Eastleigh, when he was 15, 16 years old. But anyway, he's obviously a Bristol lad, local lad. But what I find interesting is how sometimes players do just sort of step in and fill the breach when a big talisman leaves. I didn't look at Semenyo last season, and I didn't look at him when he left Bristol City as go on to be a Premier League talisman in the way that I thought Alex Scott might. His career's obviously slowed down a little bit because of injuries and whatnot. But as soon as Slanky's left, Semenyo just seems he looks bigger, he looks taller, his chest out a bit more. He wants to be the guy. which I just find interesting that players can do that when someone leaves and just sort of step in.
The manager's going to miss the game as well. I think I read today. Did he get a yellow card for arguing with the officials? So he's going to be in the stands. The Bournemouth manager.
He's already racked up enough bookings for a suspension.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Although I think they're going to appeal.
One came after the
They're
eyes
going-
of the handball, didn't it? So the who was it?
Yeah.
Utara.
Well, it was-
Utara.
It was the game against Chelsea, the one I was referring to earlier on, where there was something like 19 bookings or something ridiculous like that. It broke the record, and he was one of them. And I think two of the other people with the coaching staff got booked as well. It's just one of those ridiculous games. I can't remember who the referee was, but Paul Tierney, perhaps, completely lost control of the game. He started booking people for
He was
stupid
the fourth
things.
official yesterday, I think. Whoever it was the
Yeah.
fourth official yesterday, because there was definitely a conversation about that I heard.
Yeah, he started booking people for stupid things, and then he had to keep on doing it. And instead of taking stock and going, well, this is ridiculous, and then he totally bottled giving a second yellow to Cucurella from Chelsea, who did a foul that would have got
Who
everybody.
always deserves one.
Yeah, he always deserves one just for that hair alone. And so I could see why the Bournemouth manager got himself in a bit of a state about the way that game was officiated, because it was terrible, and of course they lost in the last minute, so that's not going to help either.
Well, he may or may not be on the touchline.
Did we go to Bournemouth winless in the last Premier League season, or had we won a game by that point?
We'd beaten Chelsea early doors.
That's right, we did in August. Amo-Ameyaw scored, yeah. Because I remember we went to
and Leicester, actually, in fact.
Oh, there you go. We went to Dean Court a couple of years ago. Though. It felt like it was on sort of. By the way, I'm not saying that Russell Martin is, but it felt like Ralph Hasenhüttl was on his last legs. We went to that Bournemouth match, remember, and then won it 1-0, playing sort of terrible football. Jay Adams scored the only goal. But I remember thinking, that could be a turning point in the season. Obviously, didn't end up being that one.
Well, let's hope so. Should we do score predictions? Just to let you know, we had 10 correct score predictions from the Patreon League this week. Lots of movement on the leaderboard, which we'll obviously share on the socials. Glenn, can I get a score prediction from you, please?
Oh, what's the point? What is the point? I'm gonna manifest again, and I'm gonna manifest us winning 2-1.
Okay, are you manifesting as well, Steve?
That's it.
No, we have got a good record down there, but we've always gone down there as the favourites. I think this must be the first time that we'll go down there very much as the inferior team on paper. So, yeah, I think if we get out with a draw, then I think everybody will be pretty happy. Take a 1-1 again. That'd be right.
Again. Alfie, shorter journey for you as well, which must be nice.
Yeah, it'd be nice. It's Monday night as well, I would say, so that's interesting. Have a weekend off, which would be nice. I was seconds from a correct score with my 1-0, which I didn't actually believe in, but went because Steve went for a 2-1. Thought that was taken away from me. So I'm a little bit disappointed about that. I haven't thought about this at all, and I just think that it's not a derby at all, but I think Bournemouth fans think it is, and they're going to make it a good atmosphere. And they're going to smell blood, definitely, like Steve suggested. They're going to think that Saints are going to them as the weaker side. So I think that'll make for an interesting dynamic. But I don't want to back against the point again, because I think these are the games you have to get something. So I'll just say a 2-2 draw.